Hello and welcome to Deccan Dialogues. Today's episode brings to you a conversation between Dr. Jyotirmaya Sharma and Mohan Guruswamy. Dr. Sharma is a public intellectual, political philosopher, and a professor of political science at the Department of Political Science in the University of Hyderabad. He is currently a senior fellow at the Leichenberg College University, Germany. Mohan Guruswamy is a writer and public intellectual, frequent commentator on national and international matters of current interest, and writes in a number of newspapers and magazines. In a freewheeling session, the two talk about importance of Nehru in this 75th year of our independence. What are his contributions to the country, if any at all? Does his legacy mean anything to this present generation? These are some of the points Guruswamy and Dr. Sharma will talk about and discuss. Over to both of you.
Jyotirmaya, welcome to Guruswamy Center and to Deccan Dialogues.
Thank you so much.
Today is also Jawaharlal Nehru's birthday. Not many people remember him these days in this country. But in a way, he was the man who made the India we live in. You know, he pioneered the Constitution, and if you read history, I'm sure which you've done, he was no less a nationalist and a hardliner when it comes to putting together the Union than Sardar Patel or anybody else. And Sardar Patel could not have done what he did, what he's given credit for, without Nehru supporting him. Even on Hyderabad, if you read the books, it was Nehru who was pushing him, saying, when are you sending the army in? When are you sending the army in? And Patel, of course, had, I think, the biggest contribution he had, of course, was that he protected the civil service. Nehru wanted it dismantled and a new civil service to be created, which to serve the people differently. And Patel happily went along with the old colonial thing. And then, of course, there is, would we had land reforms if Patel was the Prime Minister? Would we have had the 5-year plans? Would we have had a public sector? Would we have had this huge investments in education? These are all questions we can ponder about.
Yeah.
We also ponder about what could he have done better? What could we have done better? What were his mistakes? How are we paying the price for it? You know, the bureaucratization of India, etc. So what do you...
I think what you said is fascinating. And I think all the things that you listed are absolutely crucial as far as Nehru's contribution is concerned. But I think, to my mind, the greatest contribution is that nobody but nobody, and here I'll single him out, had this instinctive feel for this very fragile thing called democracy. And it was not an idealized, romanticized notion of democracy. In one of his letters to the chief ministers that he used to regularly write, he talks about the noise and chaos of democracy. And says that one thing democratic theory or books on democracy don't tell you, which is crucial for democracy, succeeding or unraveling, and that is patience. I think that element, Gandhi didn't have that. Gandhi had very little respect for democracy as it came from Europe anyway. He called the Parliament of Britain a prostitute and so on and so forth. I don't think if there was no Nehru, there would have been democracy. And I think that's his biggest contribution. As far as the shortcomings are concerned, I think he is significant only because he's flawed. And I think it's that which I think we are losing as a people in understanding, that these models of perfection that we are given are not human. They are either part of demagoguery, propaganda, or just sheer stupidity. It is a civilization great old friend and writer Nirmal Verma once said in a lecture, it's the pure and the tainted that constitutes civilization. And that's true of human beings. It's true of all of us. We have certain rough edges and we have certain wonderful qualities. Are they balanced or not? That's the question. And in the case of Nehru, I think they were well balanced. He took decisions. I met recently an old friend who's written a book on China, Manoj Joshi. He was sitting and having lunch, and I said, but you know, this Nehru thing is constantly repeated, 1962. Manoj got fed up of that rhetoric, not my rhetoric, but that rhetoric, and said, "Arey yaar, wo jang mein gaya to tha bichara. Aajkal to koi nobody has the gumption or the strategy to even go to war. It might have been a war which he had miscalculated, he was misinformed, whatever. But at least he had the courage to go to war. I mean, what are we talking about?" So I think, and hindsight is something which, you know, the what if question. What if Subhash Bose would have survived? What if Patel would have lived longer? You know, they are important questions and yet they're not pertinent. Because what are pertinent questions are those where we examine somebody's actual actions. And there Nehru's instinctive feel for democracy is absolutely wonderful. I mean, he was a democrat to the core. Impetuous sometimes, angry sometimes, little pompous.
That is that elite education he had, and you know, upbringing.
I think there's nothing wrong with it. I was told an apocryphal story. I mean, I don't know whether real or apocryphal, but it's a lovely story. And I think we should get past this this illness that the Indian media is prone to of objectivity, because when they talk nonsense most of the time, especially television channels, and then speak of objectivity by putting one BJP guy, one Congress guy, and one so-called neutral figure there. There's this wonderful story of how Ramnath Goenka used to periodically have breakfast with Nehru. And Nehru would ask him all sorts of questions about the media, about the country, about policies, about people perceiving him. Came a time when Feroz Gandhi was attacking Nehru in Parliament, and Ramnath Goenka was giving him a lot of space in Indian Express. And Ramnathji goes to Tinmurti for breakfast, and at breakfast, Nehru raises the question, in a very sophisticated way, "Ramnathji, do you really have to encourage Feroz that much?" And it said, Ramnath Goenka turned and said, "Should I think that the Prime Minister of India is putting pressure on me to go soft on him and not give the space or the time to his son-in-law?" No. I forget that I said this at all, Nehru said. But that's not the moment where Nehru's character comes to the fore. He comes down the steps of Tinmurti to see Ramnath Goenka off, opens the door of the car for him and says, "Ramnath ji, aapko bura to nahi laga? Agli baar nashte ke liye aayenge na?" Now the Prime Minister of the country of his stature at that point of time, which wannabes these days are only trying to imitate, for him to say this to a media person, I think it tells you something about his democratic
and the
impulse,
identity he gave us. You know, I always tell, I should tell my friends that when I go and see the Taj Mahal, I think of it as ours, as my inheritance, as a part of my tradition. I don't see it as, you know, that there was a temple there, or, you know, as people try to make out. I look at the Meenakshi temple or the Tanjavur temple, I was there a few weeks ago, as ours, my inheritance still, you know. And this is the identity he gave me, that, we could have everything as ours, that we were all in a big melting pot and we've arrived here now. But that is it's as if the pot has been overcooked and the oil and the curry are separating. If that goes, as you see, increasingly there's this acrimony between people on our history. If that goes, then all our smaller identities will start asserting itself. The lesson of history is that, of Aurangzeb, is that the Battle of Samugarh, where he killed his rival and defeated his rival and then gave India a new direction and failed. The lesson of Aurangzeb was that he built the greatest empire of modern times or recent times, and it collapsed after him. Now, is that history going to be repeated now? Or what happened to those lessons of history? Do we learn it, or have we forgotten everything?
I think here, my sense is, and I might be wrong, I'd look at it slightly differently. I think this nationalist consensus that has been served to us from 47 is not entirely true. I think we were always a querulous people. We always rubbed against each other. This whole business of one happy family before the British
never
came,
existed, no.
or before the Mughals came, or before anybody came. I think it's a bit of a myth, and that myth served in the form of diversity. And give me a minute to explain this. I grew up watching Doordarshan and listening to All India Radio, where the slogan used to be Anekta mein Ekta, unity in diversity. And I think the problem with that formulation is that it's a state legitimized idea. You can be diverse only as long as I allow you to be diverse. The diversity which goes against the state is not diversity, it's subversion. It's dissent. And so I think we need to recalibrate our vocabulary and start talking about tolerance of differences. Differences can't be removed. Differences are differences. You are different from me, I am different from you. Your ways are different, my ways are different. There will never be a common ground, and yet, without killing each other, we can
have
still...
to coexist. Absolutely.
We have to live with each other. So I think 2 years ago I translated 13th century political satire from Sanskrit into English. And if you read that political satire, you'd realize that everything that's happening today was happening in the 13th century. And so when people tell me, there are people who tell you, this is the logic of Indian nationalism which had not been fulfilled, being fulfilled. Because there were several strands of Indian nationalism. There was the Hindu strand, there was the environmental strand, there was the feminist strand. Now, this is reaching its conclusion. I don't agree with that. Some say, we are becoming fascist. I think that's, again, intellectual laziness. What we are becoming, and that's where the warning signs that you so admirably have flagged for us are there, is that we are becoming pre-colonial. And the pre-colonial is not pretty.
I know.
It's not all ugly.
Look what happened to us.
Yeah. It's not all ugly, but it's not all pretty either. And so I think in that sense, it's for us to, I've never understood this.
Imagine Sardar Patel, or Home Minister of India, going to Tamil Nadu and saying that your medium of instruction for medicine should be Hindi. What nonsense is that? Are we coming to that pre-colonial stage now? Are we going to rip us apart?
You're talking about Nehru's flaws or his mistakes. I think there is one flaw or one mistake which I rate above all his other errors of judgment. And that's the linguistic division of states. It was a hot air atmosphere at that point of time. He got swayed by it. We must learn to live together with our differences.
But now that is a settled issue now. It's happened.
No, it is a settled issue, but it has had this impact of making us less tolerant, more myopic. You know, Maharashtra is for Maharashtrians and Marathi. Punjab is for so and so. Telugu.
And all the old animosities also right to the fore. Other day, I was talking to a Bengali friend who was still angry about the Maratha invasions of Bengal and the depredations. And today, 300 years later.
A friend of mine's sort of very admirably conceptualized what you've been saying till now. The greatest fear for modern India is the narcissism of little identities.
Absolutely.
You know, Telangana is Telugu speaking, Andhra is Telugu speaking, but we are different.
And you know, yesterday we had a lieutenant governor elected in Maryland who's of Telugu origin.
Yeah.
All our papers here carried, Telugu lady becomes lieutenant. For heaven's sake, what is a lieutenant governor of a small American state? He's not even equal to a dog catcher. But let's say, but we are so happy.
Yes, I know. I know. But you see, this sense of inferiority, I don't know where it's come from. Why are we not self-confident? Why are we not self-critical? You can't blame it on colonial rule entirely. You can't blame it on Mughals or Buddha or God knows who else. There's something amiss. I do not know. I don't have an answer for this. I mean, I used to say to people, I used to say to Professor Gopal, Sarvapalli Gopal, I said, why do you call this place Indian Institute of Advanced Studies? Are you so insecure that Shimla is not in India? उसकी क्या जरूरत क्या है? Indian Institute of Advanced Studies, All India Institute of Medical Sciences. Why don't you call it simply Institute for Medical Sciences?
There's another area I'd like to delve into.
Yeah.
One is that, Jawaharlal wanted to disband the civil service. He didn't want a central cadre.
Yeah.
Patel said no. And Patel said it will cause too much of chaos, so Nehru deferred to him on that. But today we find that we have a civil service, but without the protections. The average tenure of a district collector is 7 months. This is recorded by research. There's a man called S.R. Das who did this book on public administration in India. 7 months. Today's papers carry that Uttar Pradesh has 78 DGPs and AG DGPs. 78. So each DGP, even if he's sitting in the Thana, has a paraphernalia.
Yeah.
So, and what is the functioning? It's like the British Navy with more admirals than ships. So, that kind of automatic, everybody rises to the top. Tenure system. And the civil service become big. It's about 4,500 now. At those days, it was 300 ICS. And they were in the judiciary, they were in the police, they did everything.
And ran a bigger country.
But here now, it's 4,500 district collectors. I went for a luncheon sometime a few months ago. And there were a lot of chief minister of the state was sitting there, the others sitting there. And there was a young man, nicely, neatly dressed, who was supervising the serving of food. Saying, that table needs dal, that table needs. So I called him, I said, are you from the caterer? So he said, no, sir, I'm the district collector. I said, you're doing this?
Yes.
खाना खिला रहे हो सबको? He said, नहीं साहब क्या करेंगे? Transfer करेंगे मेरे को. I've just come. I've got my kid admitted in school. बड़ी मुश्किल से admission मिला. अब मेरे को 3 महीने में जाओ बोलेंगे तो मैं क्या करूँगा? So I have to humor these fellows. So you reduce them to that kind of status. When there is a Supreme Court judgment, the TSR Subramaniam case, which incidentally my daughter fought, and they said that you have to give them a tenure. Everybody gets a tenure. Everybody should be told why his tenure is being cut short. And they should have the we used to have the state, Hyderabad, Andhra Pradesh used to have a board of revenue. Tamil Nadu had a board of revenue. 5 commissioners. They did the transfers. They did the annual records. Ministers could only recommend. I remember my father telling me that the Deputy Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh, Mr. Ranga Reddy, after whom this district is named, called him up and said, मेरे कुछ पावर नहीं होते हैं, क्या ट्रांसफर करें? He said, नहीं, अगर आप मेरे से दरखास्त देंगे, अच्छी तरह पूछेंगे, तो मैं ऐसा सोचूंगा उसके बारे में. That was the difference. That has gone. 78 DGPs. There's a DGP for printing, a DGP for road transport, for prisons, fire services. 6 fire engines, you got a DGP.
An old student of mine who is IPS Uttar Pradesh cadre was transferred 21 times in a year and a half.
That man came in Haryana. He's gone mad.
This boy was transferred 21 times.
And the effect of that is being felt
Yeah.
on government. They are terrified. They are placating politicians at all levels. There's another concern of mine, the building of personality cults. Today, incidentally, November 14th, is also the day of the Battle of Along. The Battle of Along took place on November 14th because General B.M. Kaul, commander of the 33 Corps, wanted to give Jawaharlal Nehru a present for his birthday. And he said, we will attack the Chinese in Walong. And he had no idea what was on the ground. The division which was supposed to go to attack was effectively 2/3 of a brigade. That's 2 battalions.
Yeah.
Attacking a Chinese battle-hardened division which has fought in Korea and sitting on the other side of the hill in a place called Rima. And they were waiting for these guys to do something stupid. They attacked and they rolled down. So that Walong battle was a bigger debacle than Sela. Sela terrified India, but Walong was even bigger. The entire division was wiped out, whatever was of the division. And there was heavy fighting. Indian troops didn't break and run. They fought every yard and completely wiped out. And this personality cult, we give the Prime Minister a birthday present. He's now becoming bigger presence and bigger presence, and now there's a time coming when you can't refer to a Prime Minister in pejorative terms at all. Are you criticizing the Prime Minister?
Your gas cylinders must have his picture.
Absolutely.
No, I think the personality cult business has been with us always.
Indira Gandhi started it.
Yeah. No, it's been part of our thing. The whole worshipping an individual for his whatever. That's to me part of the problem as you describe it. But the thing that's what you are addressing goes to the heart of it, which is we've never developed beyond a point the idea of an impersonal rule of law. Never been able to separate office from person. And it's not part of our culture.
Why haven't we in 75 years become an inquiring people, a questioning people? Why don't we have people saying why? Why not?
That's to do with interest-driven politics. I think that's
Was it something lacking in our education?
Yes, but I think it's to do with partly the colonial legacy, but part of it is this whole business of representation. You see, we started the whole idea of representation of people. SC, ST, what we call Dalits now, this electorate, that electorate, Muslims, Hindus, this, that, much before democracy came. So when democracy came, democracy translated itself into simply representational logic. And so we become a people who only fight for a representational logic without a sense of a larger sense of community. And I think that's the problem. And with identity politics becoming strong all over the world now, this is going to get worse. It's not going to improve.
Tell me, what is the future? Ke Sara Sara, will we be around as one large entity as we are today, as a new identity, or are we headed for our old fragmented selves?
I don't think I'll live that long to see either of those alternatives. But let's end on a positive note in the words of Faz, who also these days, by the way, you can't,
Is reviled.
is reviled. माना कि सुनसान घड़ी सख्त घड़ी है, लेकिन मेरे दिल ये तो फक्त एक घड़ी है, हिम्मत करो जीने को अभी उम्र पड़ी है.
Thank you very much. And on that note,
Thank you.
nice conversation we had.
Thanks.